This call is being recorded.
Hi, this is Judge DW. Welcome to the Matrexit discussion group. It is Sunday, 11/20/2016. I'd like to go over a quick disclaimer of the group. Information provided in this discussion group is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. Please keep in mind everyone's individual circumstance and situation is different and may be subject to change based on various thoughts and opinions. It is up to every individual competent person to do his or her own research or homework if they feel elsewise. The broadcaster and host of this discussion group cannot be held accountable for any material shared. We are mere messengers and sharers of this information to help others. We want this group to be about thought-provoking information to accurately help educate and inform those who may be unaware of certain topics discussed. In conclusion, information discussed is not to be construed as any type of legal advice. If you feel as though you have a legal situation going on, please seek a competent attorney. Good luck trying to find one. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, how's everybody doing this evening? Glad to have you here. Glad to have our guests here. And like I've talked about many times in the past, it seems like, we've all met up at the door, to the real truth, the real answer. And little by little, more and more people keep showing up that's been on the same path, and which only tells us one thing, that we've been following the right direction. We haven't gotten off on any of the other rabbit holes or wormholes along the way. We're going to have Tim Damron on with us with some great info that he's discovered, stuff that he just hasn't read about, things that he's actually done and put to use and seen the evidence of. And as well, we've got Randi Shannon with us here from 42 Action. If nobody has gone and checked out 42 Action, I highly recommend looking at her info there. I really wish that I even had a fraction of the knowledge that she has. She's done some great calls over time with some really, really well-educated guests. And in fact, I think Randy's call was probably one of the very first calls that I ever turned into and listened, and kind of really woke me up. And I appreciate the information that she brings forward. And I think that some of the pieces of this whole puzzle that she's already figured out are probably going to fit tightly in place with the same information that Tim Damron has figured out as well. And one of the things I want to say as well is the direction that we're exploring and looking at and what Tim has been using falls under UCC. I'll come right out and tell everybody that right now. It falls under Uniform Commercial Code. And that's something that scares a lot of people. And it scared me in the beginning as well. And it's all a matter of how you look at it and how you perceive it. Everybody wants to, exit the matrix. They want to get out of the system. They want to be able to do their own thing and have the system leave them alone. But we have to also go back to things that we've researched and things that we've learned and know for a fact, which is that this system, number one, is foreign to us, and the UCC system is, to me, I call it Robert's Rules of Order for the world in commerce, okay? This isn't just something here in the United States. This is a worldwide, basically, the law that they use. And what it's falling under is everybody's looking at it. It's the IRS that's doing it, all right? And that's who we're going to be working through. But you have to comprehend, the IRS is not part of this corporate cabal that everybody wants to separate themselves from. The IRS is a totally separate entity as well. They're not even located here on the landmass that we love called America. And they're down in Puerto Rico. And that's where their servicing office is at as well. So I really think it's not something to really be afraid of, or, at least open your ear to it and open your mind to it. And some people are afraid that there's no biblical references to it, and I would really have to argue with that, because I think there are plenty of biblical references when it comes to the commercial law. We know that Yeshua turned the tables on the money changers. Well, you know, when you're going and assessing your taxes and taking care of that, well, what are you doing? You're turning the tables. You are giving back those receipts to them, you know. And, you know, Yeshua tried to teach the people to walk on water, tried to teach the disciples to walk on water. You know, the water in law is synonymous with commerce, all right? And he was trying to show people how to rise above commerce. And we need to be the ones in control of the commerce instead of the commerce being in control of us. And everything that we've studied and learned is all really basically telling us that, you know, it's time to, you know, pull up the big boy pants, put your boots on, and take self-responsibility. Because for too long, for far, far too long, Americans have relinquished that responsibility to another entity who has totally misused it and has caused a lot of harm on people. But with that being said, you know, I want to introduce Tim Damron and Randy Shannon onto the call, and kind of like to let them have a little bit of a back and forth and discuss this information that Tim has. So with that being said, Tim, Randy, how are you guys doing?
I'm excellent, man.
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Good to hear you. Good to hear you. You know, I know Randy, he had some questions. I'm not sure specifically what they were. And Tim, this absolutely, I don't want you to think this is a gotcha moment, because it's not a gotcha moment at all by any stretch of the imagination, but just a chance for us to kind of pick each other's brain a little bit and learn what you've learned and what you've put to use. So I'm just going to, I think, turn things over to the two of you for now.
Sweet.
What my question is, you know, I've been going down this road. I've been hosting and moderating calls since 2012. And forgive any background noise because I'm in the car. A lot of people trying to exit the matrix, as Brian said, and not a lot of people getting to the ultimate goal, which I think is, you know, getting back into their birth account. That's, I think, the main thing that most people want, and to be left alone, get out of the system. What happens when somebody actually does, for example, I guess the main thing is the question about somebody who is about to hit the county, the state, all the local officials with a massive lawsuit. It's over $100 million lawsuit. And so I threw it out there actually on the Tactical Sovereignty page. You know, what do you go after when you win this massive lawsuit, which I do believe he's going to win? What do you go for? Because $100 million on the surface is going to break the bank of the local county. They don't have it in their budget. It makes the taxpayers that are actually in the system that might be sitting in there. You can't have this case in that actual county, because those people are going to get mad because they're going to see taxes rise, things like that. How does he go to write a 1 to 2 page article or a paragraph, a couple paragraphs into his lawsuit where it talks about the release to tap that CAFR account or tap that birth account? How does he put it into writing to make that happen?
Well, you're covering a lot of different ground, and kind of in regards to that, I mean, really, we have to put, if I could, I'm just going to kind of put everything in their proper places, okay, for you, as based on what you've told me. The situation with the mega lawsuit that you have, you guys are, in that regard, you guys are using, what kind of form are you using? Are you obviously you're either in a district court or a federal court, but which one are you in?
They've still got to determine that. Right now, they're talking federal, but I was reading some stuff today. It might need to be district, and it's going to be RICO, racketeering. It's a massive lawsuit, and I don't see how any of the officials can get out of it.
Well, of course, I can tell you exactly how they're going to get out of it. They're all friends.
Well, yeah, we know. Yeah. So
and I'm telling you, let me tell you, I've been in the court, and I've whipped everybody in that courtroom. Everybody. The judge, too. Me and the judge went at it for an hour and a half straight. Like, he's trying to hit me with stuff, trying to shake me up, trying to stump me. And he hit me. He and I exchanged for an hour and a half, grueling. And he couldn't beat me, and he certainly wasn't going to tell me that these people wrote a check when there wasn't a check. So, and that was really what my case boiled down to. Amongst the many other rabbit holes we went down. And to give you some history, basically when I woke up, I started challenging my debt. The first thing I did was I went after I went after my car loans because I wanted to get rid of my debt or discharge it, whatever these free people start talking about. You know what I mean? That's how it was to me at the time. So, you know, and I spent 15 years as a finance director at a car dealership. My grandfather owns a car dealership in Texas. And so I've kind of grown up in the business. So this was fairly easy for me to do. Well, it ended up into being an 8-month court case. I whipped 3 attorneys out of this law firm, and I mean whipped them good, right in front of the judge and everybody. Busted the judge, helping the other one. The last attorney, they always send a whipping boy in there when they know they're going to get whipped. So they sent this young kid in there, and this kid didn't even know what kind of car we were even talking about. He thought it was a Lexus, it was an Infiniti. It was just, you know, and the judge had to help him. And I'm like, really, Judge? 2? Should we do cue cards for this young man? You know? I mean, he's clean shaven and everything, but, you know. So I'm just saying, you can go in there and you can mop the floor with these guys, but that's just not, I just don't think that's the way to do it. The way to do this is your commercial lien process, and you could send out a commercial lien to everybody that's involved, all the parties that are involved, and then file a 1099-C, and it's done.
Without going to court at all.
That's right. Just saying, if you want to play with the fact that what you guys are doing is that you guys are validating, by doing this sort of thing, you're validating a system that is not valid. You're saying, okay, well, we're going to file all the right stuff because we got these guys and there's no way they're going to get out of it. They'll just look you straight in the face and lie to you. Or when you start talking too much truth, they'll tell you to be quiet, and then they'll bring some sheriffs in there to make you be quiet while he just sits there and gives you a verbal lashing and tells you how it's going to be. I'm just telling you, I've been in a lot of courts, and they're not set up for us to win. We're not going to win. Win is if you file a bigger bond than they do.
Did that work for you?
That is how court cases are won. That's how court cases are won in this country. Period. End of story. You can be as right can be, but if you didn't file the bond, that judge is interested in commerce, and he's going to do what benefits the county, which is going to be the commerce. And so he's going to side with the bigger bond. That's how it happens.
Did you do that?
I'm sorry?
I said, did you do that? Did you do that?
Did I do? Yes, I did. Actually, with my case, with my car, I didn't. I knew how to type up. I knew how to prepare a commercial lien. I knew how to serve it properly. I filed it on the record of the court as well. And so when this case was over, and basically, to make a long story short, these guys spent $13,800 in attorney fees and $7,700 to me. So they spent $21,500 to get a 2008 Infiniti G35 that was worth about 10 grand. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you. They don't care what it costs. They're going to do what they have to do to protect the fiction. So we can't go. As much as we would love to walk into a courtroom and blow the big Jago bomb up and say, hey, aha, now we know more than you. We got you. Well, when you do that, they just look at you and they lie to you, or they tell you to be quiet. And I think that you could circumvent this process a lot quicker with commercial liens and let the IRS deal with it, because what happens is, if you send them a cancellation of debt, which basically says, you know, I'm not paying you, you know, you haven't paid me, and so you're delinquent, so here you go, here's your cancellation of debt, the IRS sees that as income. And if they didn't file a tax return for it, you got them. And then what you do is you take your commercial lien and you deposit it, or stamp it with your A for V stamp and file a 1040 and put it back in. And that's how it works.
So when you did
Your mega lawsuit could be reduced to, you know, a few commercial liens and some 1099s and some 1099 fees.
And then it has to look like income, though.
Well, of course it is. It's income. You're going to deposit that contract, and you're going to deposit that, you know, that commercial lien that you served. You'll have your own original copy, and you're going to deposit that. You should deposit that into the Treasury. And then the Treasury, therefore, at that point, sees that you have a security. And then if you filed your 1099-C, cancellation of debt, then you kind of follow the money and you can see what happens. If somebody screwed you, which it sounds like you guys have been damaged, and you know, that's what the purpose of commercial liens are for.
Okay. In almost 5 years of hosting the call, somebody's got it on speaker. It's echoing. I don't know if you guys can all hear that echo. In 5 years of hosting the 42 Action call, I don't think I saw one person, and I don't know if they're just doing them wrong or what, but we didn't see one person successful in filing those commercial liens. I have heard of successes on the A for V, and the whole premise of 42 Action was the Title 42s, and a lot of people were getting the 12B6s, et cetera. You know, I was the host and moderator, so I brought the people on that, you know, had walked through these things or were currently walking through these things. And it was quite an effort for almost 5 years in doing it. And then we started moving into other types of interviews where we were teaching people more how to protect themselves. And I'm still doing it, but now I'm not live. It was live every Thursday, which I think that was the same night as you guys. So I'm glad to, I'm glad to see someone kind of picking up the reins and having success with their calls. So unless, if the person's listening that I'm talking about with this lawsuit, unless you've got, if you've got any questions or want me to ask it another way, pop me off a text message and I'll ask it another way. But I think that was sufficient. If anybody else wants to weigh in on it, that'd be great.
You know, if I could just add something, the only real process that's going to work properly for you if you want to do the kangaroo court game is if you take them to federal court. You know, if you go to federal court, now that's a whole nother story, okay? Because those people, they're not buddies. They're there to do a job, and they take their job actually pretty seriously for the most part. And I have a lot of respect for the federal courts, actually. So, in your case, if you went to federal court, I would serve them with commercial liens and then have the federal court grant those even without if you serve them with liens and they accept those liens, then they've already accepted guilt. Now it's just a matter of let's go on to court and go hit the cash register.
Okay, and so when the cash register hits and they go to the federal court, you're saying it'll pay out from the commercial liens. What if he just goes the regular route and he just burns the house down around him? Because this guy's not afraid, and he's very smart. He's in an industry where it was lawsuits and attorneys left, right, and center, so he knows how the game is played. And he's one of the smartest people I've ever met when it comes to this. What's the best way, if he doesn't do the commercial liens, what would people go for? I mean, tapping the account, I hear that, but I'm not seeing people actually tapping the account. You know, the state has assets. The state has income. They run it as a corporation. And he wants it to be where it's not considered an income. He wants that to be part of the deal.
Well, and typically when you have damages, and you've been damaged, that's usually tax-free anyway.
Right, that's what I said, but we thought part of that.
Well, I understand there's a difference There's a difference between paying taxes and assessing taxes. I teach people to assess their taxes so you don't have to pay them.
Okay.
See, when we pay taxes, basically what we're doing is it's like a virtual offering plate into that offering plate. And then what that does is that allows a certain amount of offset to happen with activities on your bond so you don't go to jail. See what I mean? So if you're making $200,000 a year and you're donating because you filled out that W-2 and you're giving it all back, then what happens is you are you're essentially just donating and hoping that it's enough. You're just hoping that it's enough and that it keeps you out of trouble. And then the tax guidelines look at all of us as cheaters pretty much, and how do we cheat and we just stay right on the red line. So that's what they want us to do. So if he just assesses the taxes, you'll actually have a greater return than paying them. Because it's different actions and they just can't be confused.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry about that. Income-wise, he doesn't have to worry about that. But something into the Treasury, then you're taking an income. You're taking a bill of exchange and you're activating it with an activated signature, and you're depositing that securitized exchange note into your Treasury account. So it is income, and you should get about 62% of it back.
Okay.
And you've got a trouble with the IRS. Isn't that good?
That would be wonderful. Anybody else want to give feedback on that?
Well, this is Brian, if I could pipe in. You know, listening to Tim's info and kind of stepping back and looking at the whole system, to me, what it really boils down to, I think, you know, we know that the citizen was looked at and identified basically as an enemy when you read the Emergency Banking Act or Trading with the Enemy Act. And the problem is because we haven't really been doing things from the correct or peaceful standpoint. We've been doing everything the easy way, actually, which, I mean, filing taxes in the spring isn't always easy. But the way we're really supposed to be approaching it is really, like Tim says, to be assessing these taxes, and which ends up creating basically, to me, it kind of sounds like a revolving door where, you know, whatever you're paying, your expenses, et cetera, then, you know, after you've done your report, a chunk of it comes back to you again, you know, and that's the way it's really supposed to be set up in a debt-based system. And that's just my point of view, and I yield.
Thank you.
It's just been the easiest way that I've been able to understand it. Basically, on the premises, is basically what goes in must come out. And so the IRS doesn't care what you spent your money on. They don't care what you've done. But what they do care is about getting everything back to zero. Everything that's hit your bond needs to go back to zero. And so with this W-2 process, like we did a show last week and we talked about employers. And one of the things I said was is that, you know, you need to find an employer that will, or find somebody that'll pay you with a 1099, because it's the only way you're not going to get, your pay is not going to get hijacked if you assess your taxes properly. So it's just, I just want people to stop donating and stop paying taxes, you know, because when you're paying taxes, you really never know when you're done paying taxes. But when you're assessing taxes, as soon as you run out of remittances, you're done and you're finished. And you can know that you're finished. Whereas before, in the land of Oz, everything's all up in the air and it's all plastic flowers, and, you know, well, I guess it works out somehow in the end, you know. You know, and we just can't act that way. That's just irresponsible. I yield.
That was really it on my question. So, you know, I had laid that out on Brian's Tactical Sovereignty page, and you know, he invited me in to ask that question. So thank you very much for your information. I look forward to the rest of what you have to say tonight.
Wonderful. And by the way, I'm checking out your page. It's very cool, by the way. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, at 42 Action, or where are you at?
I'm at 42 action. It says knowledge is your primary defense.
Yep.
Up here at the top.
Yes.
And it's got a call-in number of 319-804-9163.
That's
Right?
it. It'll chase me around. That number.
Keep us busy, don't they? But no, I love it, man. You've got some good stuff in here. I looked at a bunch of. You've got some good stuff in here. This is pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Very good. Thank you. We try to help a lot of people. We're on a break right now. Brian knows I've been doing it almost 5 years, and a couple months ago I said we're going to go to recorded calls and take off at least through November. We're here now, and I'm kind of enjoying it. So not being live. So.
Right on.
Yeah.
Hey,
so let you take
this
the
is
reins.
Brian.
You got it.
No, this
Go
is
ahead, Brian.
You know, regarding you, Randy, when I first listened to you, you know, I went and, as usual, did my homework and researched you and everything like that. And I don't know, I would say the majority of the people listening to this call don't realize that actually at one time you were running for a position in the this de facto cabal, and you learned that this whole thing is nothing but a sham and a house of cards, and you stepped away from it. And if I remember correctly, the info I was looking at, I think you were winning at the time. You were ahead in the polls. And,
yeah, I was 3,500 votes ahead, which in the county or the district, it was enough to win. And I do believe I would have won, but I made the decision that I could not align with the corruption that I was already being faced with. And they did take me aside and told me that if I did not get on the governor's agenda, he would not be on mine. And I don't think they ever would have been on mine because mine was what the people wanted. I did argue with them on many things along the way in a friendly manner. There was several people I really liked, and there was others that were absolutely despicable. The governor knew who I was the very first time I met him. I didn't even say who I was, and I just said, he said, you need to beat your opponent. And I said, Governor, do you know who I am? And he said, yes, I do. I said, do you know who I'm running against? And he said, yes, I do, and you need to beat her. And it was a 30-year sweetheart. She was like the district sweetheart, 30-year former anchor. She was probably in her 50s or 60s. She was well-liked, but very, very to the left. And I was independent, but I had to run on under the Republican ticket because nobody on independent would ever get their endorsement at all, and I was looking for their endorsement. And there was many things that they told me that would occur that I absolutely could not align with morally at all. Things that they do at parties, things that happen at parties. The parties are 3-4 nights a week, completely against any morality that you could imagine. I mean, they're horrific. And then they sabotaged me at fundraisers. They would put that I was a Ron Paul supporter. Out of all the candidates, they only put that on my name. So when I would go to luncheons with some of the wealthiest people in the community and in the state, there was sabotage. It was like, oh, she's the independent one. You need to know this. Without them saying she's independent and she's not going to be totally Republican, they would put it in words like that. And, you know, I was privy to conversations that were whispered. Do you think we can work with her? Do you think, you know, we can get her to go this way or go that way? They put me in front of lobbyists immediately who would fill me out to see, is she going to vote for this? Because this is what, you know, they fill the room full of lobbyists full of what the governor's agenda is. And they want to know if you're going to go for it or not. And I flat out told them straight to their faces that I would not and why. So I probably wasn't the most popular to my own constituents. There was a handful that I was to. There is a U.S. senator sitting right now who took me aside, female, you can figure out who she is, from Iowa. And she told me sometimes you got to go along to get along. I understand the concept, but she, you know, basically was saying you got to give them what they want, so they'll give you a little bit of what you want. And you know, I get that in life, but I'm really a black or white person. I'm really not wavering on those types of issues. So I went home and I said to my kids, I have 4 sons, and 2 of them are living at home, 2 of them are already grown and out, and I just said, this is what you want to do, this is how we want to spend the next 4 years, and or we can go back to Florida and live a different life, and I don't have to be committed to this and go through this frustration and this corruption. And they said, let's go to Florida. So I ended my campaign by choice. And it did make national news, coast to coast. I get interviewed by a lot of people. Some of those interviews weren't that great because I wasn't one of those talking heads. I was a businesswoman. And, you know, people like Chris Matthews, you know, made fun. Don't even know who I am, didn't know anything about me. Southern Poverty Law Center did 2 interviews. Both, I think, went really well. But I dealt with Ryan, I can't remember his last name. He was the senior writer for them, and maybe senior editor as well. I just, you know, at first I told him no, I wouldn't do the interview, and he said, why? And I said, you're coming at me with a slant. It's not going to work for me. Trust me, you would like me if we sat down to dinner. We would get along really well, but you already have it in your mind what you want to do to me. And so we ended up somewhat making friends, and on the second interview, he gave me the questions ahead of time, and I took a couple weeks and took my time because I had a busy schedule to go ahead and answer those and get them over to him, and he did not slaughter me, so he was fair. And after that, after I ended the campaign, I did go into more of a mainstream media, a Fox affiliate radio show, and it's owned by Cumulus, and I'm able to say pretty much what I want. You know, I say it within reason, so we don't get knocks on the door. And really, the off-air conversations are quite a bit better than the on-air conversations because even the guests are guarded in this day and age with the way the media is and what happens to them. So, you know, so I feel really blessed. I still walk the straight and narrow path. I don't, you know, have any interest in any of the corruption that goes on. I know a lot of people probably won't like this, but I'm actually glad that Trump is you know, I know it's a corporation, but I'm glad he's the president of the corporation because at the end of the day, we still got to live in the same community, and we got to deal with these people. I didn't like what was going on for the last, I don't know how many years. And I don't believe that he's establishment, and I think that we can see a lot of things go back to where it would actually be livable and the country could actually get back on its feet. So I know some of his advisors. I've interviewed best-selling author Roger Stone. I've spent time with him and interviews off air, on air, and he's very aware of the corruption. Jerome Corsi, who wrote Where's the Birth Certificate? He's another one that's had Donald Trump's ear, and these people tell him things. So I've been happy to be a part of these people and know behind the scenes that, you know, they've gotten to him and gotten him information that was actually pretty important. So that was the long and short of, yes, I did run. And it was an experience. You know, stepping away, I don't regret it at all. How I was absolutely slaughtered to make sure I never go back into politics to try to make anything right. I didn't like any of that. But it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I know who I am and whose I am.
Wow, awesome, awesome. And, you know, because I don't want people to think that, you know, here's just some random lady coming on with a pipe dream of a lawsuit that's going on or about to go on, because it isn't. And I would really love, Randy, to see you and Tim get together, because, you know, there's some more in-depth things I know that Tim's got that could help with this, where because we have to come in, I think, and attack this corruption from a non-stereotypical side. You know, everybody's been trained just to go in and file a lawsuit and go in from that way. And like he says, you know, it's tough to beat City Hall at their own game. You know, and but though there is a backdoor way of doing it, and I'd love to see the two of you get together and iron something out with that, because I think he could have some great solutions for that.
And I think we'll set up a call. And it's not my lawsuit, but it's someone that I care about greatly that was absolutely trashed in the system. So.
No, I comprehend that. And yes, Jim.
If I could, the real thing is this. For me to go through this case with that I did with and I'll tell you who it was. It was a Nova Federal Credit Union. And let me tell you something. These people is based out of Eckhart, Indiana. I'm in Sandoval County, New Mexico. They have no filings there. So therefore, legally, they had no right to even be filing there because they don't have any filings there. So therefore, that entity has no standing. Right? Wrong. I can show you the case file, and I can tell you it went on for 8 months, and I kicked and screamed and cried about that the whole time. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you beat these guys, they're just going to lie to you. And one of the things that I had to understand when this was all said and done, I think I had faith in our system, and I thought that, if I was wittier or smarter, I could beat these guys. Okay, well, I got wittier and I got smarter. With my background and with auto loans, I knew more than anybody in the room about this process and what was going on both sides of the desk. So I had a very good advantage fighting with these people. But you know what? That judge signed an order 10 days later to come and get my car, even though they had never produced a check, even though I had filed motions with the court that they need to produce proof of claim under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and place it on the record of the court. And they would not do it. I sent them truth affidavits. It would not comply. The judge signed the order against me. I filed a motion to filed a motion to vacate the judgment because there was fraud. They had lied on record and stated that there was a check that was issued. They had an affidavit that was notarized with a New Mexico Durant, but it had an Indiana notary, and that was their only stick of proof that they filed in the court. Okay. An order against me 10 days later, like a bunch of cowards, a loaded courtroom, and they weren't going to do it with the loaded courtroom. So they waited 10 days, and then let me tell you what happened. So after I figured out this system sucks and it's just not really set up for us to win ever, my taxes. So then I started assessing my taxes. I did paperwork for a friend of mine that also had an automobile type case in front of the very same judge. I prepped all of his paperwork and did the same things we did with my case. They dismissed his case. I found that out today. I asked him what happened to his case. He goes, "Man, I never even showed up." And then the judge sent a dismissal in the mail and dismissed the other party's summary judgment. I mean, unfortunately, that's the kind of nonsense that it takes to get these judges to act right. I filed an 86-page complaint against this judge, like with really good documentation. And they said, "Well, he's not a judge, and he's not under our jurisdiction, so we really can't do anything for you." And I walked into court and showed him. As I said, you're an administrator, sir, because I called him an administrator, and he got really pissed off at me. And he got in my face about it, and I whipped out the letter, and I said, "This letter right here from the judicial disciplinary board says you're not under their jurisdiction. I filed an 86-page complaint with these people about you and what you're doing, sir." And he wasn't even trying to hear it. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it was that blatant. So I'm just telling you, the best way to do this is send all the appropriate parties a commercial lien and assess the taxes and let the IRS take care of it. It'll be so much easier.
Explain the commercial lien, not only for me, but the listeners, that process.
Sure.
Maybe not everybody understands.
Basically, a commercial lien is a big fat truth affidavit that says you hurt me, and this is how you hurt me, and you just list facts, only facts. from like a third person point of view, like this occurred. On this date, this occurred. And on this date, this occurred. And then you serve it upon them. And this is a common law practice. You serve it upon them. They have 30 days to rebut it. If they don't rebut it in 30 days, it stands. And if your case is that strong and they can't get out of it, then they're not going to be able to rebut these. And if they can't rebut it, then you're not in a position to where you're going to embarrass them in front of their buddies. Okay? That's kind of like these people that's like some of these folks that have plates on their cars that say that they have no license and no insurance and I'm private property. Too bad. You just will roll down your window and give the cop the finger when you drive by them, because all you're doing is disrespecting the facade, and they don't like that. Mm-hmm. So if you put these guys in a position and you back them up against the wall, trust me, you're going to get hurt, and whoever's involved is going to get hurt. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. They hit my bond during the process of this court case. They hit my bond that many times, all for different amounts, all in the name of commerce. So if you want to play their game, the best way to do it is to file the biggest performance bond you can come up with, and you better be a big one. That's why you have different attorneys that can step on other attorneys, because maybe they're board certified. Well, if they're board certified, then they're more equipped to file a bigger bond. So that makes them a little bit more dangerous in the court world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So when you say, okay, so throw me a number. If this guy's suit right now is $136 million, mm-hmm. what's the size of their bond? You know what I mean?
Well, this is the deal. See, they're public officials.
Yeah.
Well, they're public actors. So basically, they don't exist in their own persona. His name might be George Williams, but he's not George Williams. He's George Williams, the judge, or he's George Williams, the opposing attorney. And so it depends on how big of it just depends on what kind of commerce. So in that regard, I would just send them a power or the commercial lien and say, this is how you hurt me, and if you can't rebut this and make it, and say that that this isn't true, this is what you owe me. And now when you go into federal court, that's when you go after their bonds. And I'm going to tell everybody, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to take the power back, the way to do it is this. If these people can't go to work, they can't hurt anybody anymore. So if you want to get rid of corruption, like what you're talking about, mm-hmm. then the best way to do that is take those commercial liens and go to federal court and go after their bonds. Because that's who the IRS is going to go after anyway. But you definitely want to go after their bonds. And with the acceptance of a commercial lien, if you can find out who their surety company is, you can go file a claim without even having a court date.
Okay.
So
did you do that?
It's just like filing an insurance claim, like you hit my car. It's the same thing, right. And nothing happens. They just, if their bonds get hit too many times, they can't hold office anymore.
Perfect. What's the turnaround on it?
It just depends. It depends on what you're doing. Well, I mean, at the very least, on the commercial lien, it's 30 days. So you want to serve them with a commercial lien saying, this is how you hurt me, and it needs to be a sworn statement. And the only way that they can, they have to rebut it with the same sworn statement. If they're lying, they can get busted for perjury for that. So they need to be very careful on what they do. And the commercial lien process is a very, very effective process. It works very well. In my town where I live at, I have one that's being processed right now today. Well, it's been processed for a few months now, so I'm waiting for them to finish up with their process. But the city here sent me a ticket in the mail. And this is when I had state plates on my car still. They sent me a ticket in the mail. And so I wrote them, and because, that's an offer to contract, I wrote them back a letter for them to validate their debt. Well, then they changed the name, and then they came back at me again. Well, then I sent them notice, and I sent them a commercial lien. I went to court. I requested a hearing. I went to the court. I got in the judge's face, and it was an informal hearing, of course. And I got in his face, and I said, I'm here to get my money, and I need to get paid. And he chuckled at me, and I was like, okay. The press is crawling all over him right now, and they're not happy people at all. And local law enforcement has been especially nice lately. So I really do appreciate those guys, you know, taking it easy on us, and at the same time, you know, the point of all this was to defund that program, so you know people aren't getting shaken down for tickets anymore, because they run like $100 every time you send me a ticket. They're crazy.
Right.
So
okay.
This is how we fight and we deal with public corruption. We go after their bonds, and if they can't go to work, they can't hurt nobody. You see?
Right. All right, excellent. I think what I'm going to do is maybe set up a call with you and this gentleman sometime this week coming if you're available.
And then you can also contact me directly too on Facebook, and then we can exchange numbers, and we could even have some talking, you know, our own talking too as well. I'm totally up for that too. Anything I can do to help, I'm here to do it.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that was super informative. It was for me. And, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with one of the guys that's out there that did this commercial lien. Brian, do you know Rocky?
Yes, I know Rocky. Yeah.
Okay. So what did he do wrong? Because he did it.
You know, I didn't follow him really close. But I know about it. I was a member of Lighthouse Law for a while, and it seems like he just kind of dropped off. I'm trying to recall in the back of my mind because I saw where he flawed at in his process, and I'm not remembering it right now. But
yeah, I've had other
actually, I know who that guy is.
It had something to do with his service of process, if I remember correctly.
I heard about that guy, actually.
Did you see his paperwork? Did you see where he had flaw?
Tim?
I think where people make mistakes is that they go after the individual rather than going after their bonds. This is where people make mistakes. Because see, this is what happens when you start going after a public official and you make him look like a punk in his own courtroom. They're going to retaliate real bad. I'm telling you, they bought a share. I've guaranteed anytime I show up to court, as soon as I open my mouth, this dude wants to bring a sheriff in and try to scare me. You know.
Okay.
That's the first thing they do, and it's effective. And it's effective. I mean, my buddy Dominic, they locked him up for like 35 minutes. But then I told them to let him out, and they let him out. I mean, I just explained to him he's a foreign national. He doesn't understand what your process is or what you're doing here.
Right.
And they threw me out of the courtroom like right away, because they always do. They know who I am here, so that my face is pretty much, if it's in a courtroom, they're either going to close court, they're either going to clear the courtroom, or they're going to tell me specifically to get out.
Right.
Every courtroom I've been in, and I've probably been in 6 of them in the last 12 months. And I'm telling you, except for one of them, I was allowed to stay in, and that was only because I was there under a statutory power of attorney. And outside of that, oh yeah, they were trying to throw me out of the courtroom too. So, you know, this is what you got to do. We got to pull the curtain back and look at the little man behind the thing, just pulling all that smoke and whistles and everything else, because that's the guy we need to go after.
I think it's excellent. And, you know, maybe we can get you on my call, and we'll do a call there too, because I mean, some of the audience crosses over, but most of it does not. So I think if we can get you on my call as well and do an interview on there, I think we would hit a lot larger audience going across the country. Yeah, and if you're even willing, maybe even on the KTBL radio station. It's a Fox affiliate. In fact, it's in your neck of the woods. It's new. It's Albuquerque on Saturday morning.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, and that's got a nice size audience as well. So, and then that shoots off to New York. So there's lots of downloads, several thousand every month. I think it's an upwards of 20,000 downloads a month. So we could really spread the word on this. It could be a big thing. It would be great.
Let's wake them up. Let's wake them up, because that's what's happening right now. You know, we're the salt of the earth, and you know, he's calling out. He's waking us all up, and it's our job to help and finish. And we have this knowledge, but with this knowledge, we have a lot of responsibility, as the cliche says. And you know, but we've just got to manage it well. So I would love to. It would be my pleasure. I would be really honored. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I loved hearing what you said the other night. So this is great stuff. Thank you. So look forward to it. I yield, you guys. That's really all I had. So I'm like ecstatic getting this call going this next week. So it'll be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Randy. I was really hoping that, you know, he was going to help lead you in the correct direction that we should be heading in. And I guess if you've gotten what you need and the two of you guys are going to get together, I can foresee some great things happening in the future here with this information, with this knowledge. You know, a lot of this, as far as doing a commercial lien against the big de facto that's against us and everything, is, you know, kind of over a lot of people's heads. And I was just thinking, I received a message today from one of my group members, Tim, that was asking me, they said, hey, and this is a typical kind of message I get too as well, so it's no big deal, but they said, I got arrested last night. What am I supposed to do now? They're like, I was forced to sign things, but I didn't sign my last name. I only signed, you know, first name ... So maybe if we bring the call down to people's everyday experiences, hopefully not everybody's getting arrested last night, but bring it down to things that people can relate to, the little here. You know, I told her, listen in on this call. So, Tim, what would you say to somebody like that?
Well, this is the deal. You have a 3-day right of rescission, okay? And you can undo that process. Excuse me. And I think Judge Mickey has demonstrated it very well. Blah blah. What a day. Anyway, she really had a similar process, and she basically went through there and played hardball with these guys and just said, I'm not going to consent to any of this, and I'm not contracting to do anything. But you have a 3-day right of rescission. So at that point, you know, he probably wants to give notice to the court under that citation number, under his arrest number or booking number or whatever numbers he has. He needs to attach that with his sworn statement and send them an affidavit and do a submission to file and have it filed with the case. And once that affidavit is there, that's quite a bit to overcome. And if these people want to do, you know, put the old toilet brush up your butt, because that's what they just love to do, you know, we have a provision. You know, we can do the 3949A, which is a complaint to the IRS, which says, hey, this is, you know, what they're doing isn't right. Well, and we all know they're not paying taxes on it anyway. So that right there usually is enough to get them scared off the case, where they really don't want to pursue you because there's no money there. Like Judge Mickey's case, most likely probably get dismissed just because it's kind of a wasted witch hunt game to make any real money at this time, unless they can, you know, soft talk her into paying a fine, which I don't think that's going to happen. Not after all the conversations I've had with her. No way. It's not going to happen. But, you know, I mean, she's just not. I mean, she's just like a badass. I mean, she's really good. I mean, and she's a really good example for women and for young women. And more people like her should be around. You know, we would have a better culture. We'd have a better turnaround. We'd have a better turnout, you know, if our children had that kind of exposure to women like that. So, you know, the real thing is just don't contract. And if you do contract under duress. If they make you sign it, say, okay, fine, I'll sign it, but just make sure you write under duress on what you signed. You'll thank yourself for it later. It's scary. You know, your insides are all weird and you don't know what to do, but understand the reason the reason why that's going on is because you literally are engaging yourself with dark, dark, dark forces. And anybody that's been locked up, they can tell you what there. And it's not just the inmates. It's everything. It's the whole principle behind just warehousing people and making money off them. It's a dirty, dirty, dirty business, and there's no ethics in it at all. So it's scary, and that's how you're supposed to be scared. You're like devil pretty much, you know. I mean, I guess that's how it would feel. That's my experience with it. I've been arrested. Sucks. And but you've got to take some of your power back, and we do have power. We have so much power. We're just, you know, the lion. We're the cowardly lion with no certificate, and we don't need a certificate. We just need God. That's it, man.
Well, we know gosh, what was it? Webster's 1898, that the certificated man shall receive no settlement. But, and that was one of the things that I mentioned to the woman who messaged me, was that, you know, you've got 3 days, you got 72 hours, you need to be responding to them that you do not consent to contract. And I was thinking at the same time, with filing a 3949, would you also, along with that, send them a notice that a 3949 is going to be filed on them?
Oh no, just do it. If these guys want to play let me just say, okay, let me explain the process, okay? And again, this goes back to the 1026 show, but let me explain the process. Basically, anybody that's hitting your bond in that courtroom, there's two people with an interest in hitting your bond. The first one is going to be the one that's bringing the action against you, okay? Whether it be a prosecuting attorney, whether it be a opposing attorney, whatever. They put up a bid bond and a performance bond because they want your ass, literally. So you show up, and you're basically an infant, or you're treated as an infant if you have an attorney, or you're treated as someone with special needs, and someone that can't manage their own affairs, which we all know that's pretty basic stuff, but that's really more for the callers. But that process, you've got to send a 1099-A, and that's an acquisition for abandoned property. So what you're saying is this: you're saying, okay, sir, I see that you have a bond, and I recognize that you have a bond, and you're telling the judge, all right, judge, I recognize you have the bonds, and I also recognize that you have the matrix too. And by the way, the last hearing I was in, we actually did get the judge to pull out the matrix. So there is a matrix there. I saw it come out of the folder, and he was double checking that thing, and actually told us how much the bond was they put up too. Not so many words, but he pretty much did. But anyway, if you hold the two people accountable that are coming after you, and they have to answer for what they've done, in most cases they're not going to want to answer for what they've done, and they're just going to drop interest in the case. But if they do, and I've had scenarios where the judge said, I don't care what kind of tax forms you have, those are tax forms and I don't know anything about it, and they play stupid. You know what, Judge? That's fine, sir. I'm going to be filing a 3949-A. That's coming as well. Fine, but you could certainly see him quiver, and but definitely follow through on it. I recommend that you file your 1099-As before you go to trial, and then before you go to a hearing, and then 10 days after they've been done, the second round you're going to send them their OIDs. And you're also going to send the judge a Form 56 and make him a fiduciary and so forth. And that really holds their feet to the fire. And it's kind of a put up or shut up kind of situation at that point. Because what we have to understand is that none of this stuff is real. Whatever he got arrested for, I don't care what it was. He didn't do anything. Unless he ran over or hurt somebody or damaged somebody's property, he didn't do nothing to anybody. So this is just some petty-ass shakedown, pretty much is all it is. So, and you have to address it as such. You want to tell them, hey man, this 4939-A is coming. And you make sure you note that in your paperwork too. When you send it off to the IRS, tell them what they said. Oh, I don't care about your forms, I don't know what they mean. Fine, put them on there. Put it on there and turn it in. and the IRS will take care of it. I promise you.
You know, you mentioned something that is something that's always kind of run in the back of my mind. Well, before I address that, I want to say this as well. You know, the word matrix is thrown around a lot, and I think a lot of people probably look at it as a generic word. But if you go into a legal dictionary, I pretty much exclusively use Black's Fourth for a lot of reasons. But if you look at the word matrix, it tells you it is the original document by which all others are written, all right? And if anybody just thinks about that wording, the original document, well, stop and think of what your original document is, you know? But the thing I want to ask you about that, I've always wondered, you know, the U.S. has so many people in prison, and they like throwing people away for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever, for stupid little things. Where these people are not a threat to society or anything. And I've often wondered, you know what, why they have you sitting in there, you're not able to perform any commerce. You're not able to sign anything. You're not able to use a debit card. You know what I mean? You aren't able to write a check. So is there something else nefarious going on why they want you off the street? And what are they doing while you're off the street?
I can tell you exactly what they're doing. What they're doing is they run you, and then they basically check and see if you're a 9-to-5er. They want to see if you're working every day. I know I was one of those guys. I was, you know, 18, 19, and driving around in nice cars in the middle of the day and getting pulled over, and the cops will harass you all day long while everybody's at work. Or if they see you as kind of like somebody that isn't working, maybe the guy that's sitting on the street corner, you know, that's just, you know, or just chilling with the fellas, you know, and then the cops show up and they shake everybody down. This kind of process happens all the time, and the reason that it happens is because those people aren't making any commerce, and because they're not making any commerce, the city feels compelled to make them make some commerce. So either they're going to get a job or they're going to lock them up. Or they're going to write them tickets for stupid petty stuff like seatbelts and dark windows that doesn't matter, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what they do. That's how they target us.
Yeah, but do you think that while they have somebody put away, say they've got somebody put away for 10 years, are they running commerce on that name while that person is put away?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're hitting their bond for $4,800 a month, guaranteed. Maybe even more, depending on if they got hurt or not.
Because what I was kind of thinking was that there's something that they're able to do against your bond while you're put away that they can't do while you're free.
Correct. They put you in they treat you like you're going into a nursing home, pretty much. So they basically take all your benefits and they hit stuff. That's why I tell people to file a 1099 LTC, which is a long-term care form, and you'll be able to assess those taxes. So people that are locked up, at least that can help you send a little bit home, you know. And I'm helping a lady right now actually, and she's doing that with her family member. I'm not going to say what it is. It's because it's probably personal, but he's been away for 13 years. And she's starting that process now. And this lady is super ambitious, man. She went out and started, kind of did it wrong. She wasn't doing it exactly right, but she was sending out all the A's, and the IRS was getting called, and they were showing up to the courtroom, and they put some pressure on her, but they didn't really do anything to her, you know, just to try to scare her and make her stop. No, I mean, you definitely hit a funny bone when you start playing in these waters, that's for sure. And these people act up appropriately. It's pretty funny, though. Hope that
when we start getting into the game that they're actually playing, things seem to, from what you've said and from little things that I've read in other places, you see little hints that things open up, the game changes a little bit.
Mm-hmm. No.
Well,
when I started assessing my taxes with my income.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I started assessing my taxes for my insurance, my insurance before was like, I had an Infiniti. It was a 2008 Infiniti G35 Sport. And my insurance was about $200 a month. That's what it cost me. I have a 2008 Mercedes E320, same coverage, but now that I'm assessing taxes, it's only $232 for 6 months.
Wow.
So I'm telling you, when you assess the taxes and you start doing, and this is, so like I said, I could do the conveyance bond thing, but why do the conveyance bond? Just do what everybody else does and just discharge it. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. And boy, 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 have my rates gone down. There's a whole lot of fluff in that muff, I'm telling you. And there's a lot of fiction out there. And the IRS is the only one that's going to show you the plastic flowers versus the, the grassy grass, But that's what they do. They have a form for everything. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm getting texts and messages left and right here. And so I was thinking about opening up the call if anybody had questions or anything like that they could go through. And I really don't want to hear about somebody getting pulled over a year ago and what color shirt you were wearing at the time and what time of day it was, just try and keep it specific and down to the point a little bit, because I'm sure we've got a few people that have a question regarding what's going on or what's happening with even friends' cases. So if you're ready to do that, Tim.
If I may, I just got in Louisville.
Yeah, there we go. How are you doing, Louisville?
I'm doing just fine. It's gotten chilly here, so we're making the adjustment. Tim, if you could, I've always been kind of freaked out by UCC filings. You hear a lot of stuff about people going to jail whenever they file UCCs. I've been listening. I've listened to the last 3 calls now, I think it is, and you've definitely shared a lot about, why people are going to jail, prison, what have you, as far as the red forms are concerned. You brought up counterfeiting, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have any thoughts on why it seems so, I don't know, I guess typical is the right word, for people to be locked up over UCC filings? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, people get locked up over UCC filings all the time, and most of the time it's generally because they have greed as a motivator. They want to get rich. They want to do something. This is not the way to get rich. This is a way to purify your life and to bring you into the status that you need to be as the living man or living woman, and before God, and having no other gods before Him. And if we have contracts and obligations and all that kind of stuff, that impairs our ability to really serve God. And He's pretty jealous from what I read. And I can tell you in my personal life, taking that mode and taking that path is fruitful for me, because like I said, I've only been doing this for a year. People that typically have issues with UCC filings are typically trying to do things that are outside the scope of their filing. And it's just not, it's like witchcraft. It's not something you want to tittle-tattle in too much if you don't know what you're doing. The point of it for me, and the reason that I have done it, is because I need a legal and a public means to separate the living man and the straw man that the IRS will recognize so that I can go forward. I could care less about any of the other avenues and pitfalls and doors that you can go through with UCC. There is plenty of them. You can put liens on people. You can do all kinds of stuff. But you have to ask yourself, where's your heart in that? Is it a vengeful heart? Well, there's no purity in being vengeful. So, yeah, there you go. Bye-bye. You're going to jail. And that's just what happens. This is a spiritual walk, man. and it doesn't work like it works in the land of Oz. It's just very, very different.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Kind of my biggest concern, you know, I've sent you a couple emails. Like I've been at this for 3 years now. I've done a lot of private stuff. The bulk of my actions have been using the number on the back of the Social Security card. I've had very interesting things go on with all that, for sure. I've got stories.
What's your name again, brother? Tell me your name. Let me find you in my thing here, because I know you've sent me a message. You have to have had.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Box.
Could you send me an instant message sometime during this call, just so I can kind of have a face to a name and I know who you are? But that's very, very cool, man, that you've done that, because there's not many people that have done it successfully and not gotten their little selves slammed in the door. So that's pretty good, man.
You know, I'm actually not on Facebook, Tim. That being said, I in an effort to connect with you, I have been thinking that perhaps I should get. I've not been on Facebook in a while, but in an effort to connect with you, I've been thinking that perhaps I should get back on Facebook. Actually, would you mind terribly if, I hope you wouldn't be freaked out if I told you that I ran across your phone number? And if you aren't freaked out, would you mind if I actually gave you a ring sometime tomorrow or just generally early this week?
Oh, yeah, sure, man. That's not a problem.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll yield to the floor, then I'll just give you a ring here in the next couple of days, okay? And you're 3 hours behind Eastern, I guess, right?
Yes. Yeah, like it's like 5:15 here right now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you're 2 hours behind. 7:18 here. Awesome. Okay, well, awesome. Yeah,
so, yeah, man,
awesome.
Totally.
Awesome to chat with you, and thanks. I'm sure that I'm not the only one, you know, here on the call tonight that would, you know, just say thank you 10 times over for sharing everything that you know, and thank you for being so humble and kind, and not just generally being an asshole with the information that you possess. So
it's all just information, man. It's not there's no pirate's treasure here, man, but we definitely have to be the salt of the earth. So I'm just trying to be obedient, and I'll tell you what, that's been my key to my success, is being obedient.
I definitely believe it, and you know, you're absolutely right as far as it just being information goes, but there are a lot of people who take that information because it is so powerful, and I think it changes them in not the best of ways. So I just thank you for not being that way, is all I'm getting at. But you'll definitely hear from me. Thanks a lot.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, man.
All right, can I jump in here?
Yeah, buddy. Go
Sure.
ahead.
All right. Okay. All right. I heard you mention this twice, the 1099 TLC or TCL or whatever for long-term care. A member of our congregation doing 10 years. Is it possible for us to? Okay. I got 3 questions. First question: how would we go about helping him to do that if he's locked up? Could we do that for him, or would we have to? We could do it for him.
Yes, but he needs to sign a statutory power of attorney, and they all vary from state to state. But a statutory, not a regular power of attorney, a statutory power of attorney will let you even appear for him in court, even pro se.
Okay.
And I have myself have represented family members in here when they were not in a capacity to actually do it. I've actually done that, and the judges will accept it. And the other side cries a lot, but you know what? You guys just go with God and you do what you need to do. But it's a 1090, to clarify, it's a 1099 Care, or LTC. So the
Okay,
acronym was a little mixed up. Long-term care.
Right,
So
yeah,
just remember
yeah.
LTC, long-term care. And
Okay.
and I'm helping a lady right now, or a really nice woman right now, with a family member with exactly the same thing that's going on. Just know that you can only go 3 years back, okay? And since he hasn't had any other activity on his bond since that, that's all he'll need to file for his return, and you guys just need to do the Form 56 and appoint a fiduciary and send it off.
Well, who would you appoint to
bond deck?
Say again?
The Secretary of Treasury is who I recommend. The Secretary of Treasury is who I recommend.
Okay,
I've had the best
for
success.
that. Okay. All right. Now, the other thing, I was listening to the 1026 call, and you were talking about getting the forms from the IRS. I know back in the day when they talked about doing the 1099 and OID process, that there's a certain program and certain stuff that you have to use in order to use those forms from the IRS. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it basically, because I was looking as I was preparing to download, it said you can't use a laser printer. So how do you do those forms? How do you
have
do
to
those?
order them, and do not print these red forms. If you print these red forms, you will go to jail, and you'll be filing 1099 LTCs with your buddy. I promise. So don't.
Right.
Do not print them off. So what you need to do is, if you go to lawfulamerican.solutions and look for Tim's Tools, I have a button right there, and it'll take you right to the IRS website where to go and order those forms. And you need to actually order the forms. All red forms have to be ordered from the IRS. You can do them digitally. However, and I've heard of people doing it, but it's really hard to do a 1040V and you've got a remittance and you want to cram that into a digital media and try to get it off and get it deposited correctly. See what I'm saying? Like your FRNs and stuff. And so because of that, I just do mine pretty old school with a typewriter, and it works out pretty good.
So that was the key, because I'm on the, I clicked that button, I'm on the IRS website, and it's basically saying, I can't find it now, but it was saying non-laser form. Yeah, here it is. Here, caution, W-2s, W-3s, 1096, 1097, 1098, 99, so on, non-continuous feed, carbonless, non-laser forms.
Correct.
So when I that kind of jogged back that memory that, they were saying it was a program, a 1099 fire program or something that you could use. But you're saying just use a typewriter. Wow, it's going to be hard to find a typewriter, man.
It's really not. I bought a brand new one, and you'll get it really cheap too. I went into this Office Max place, and they had like one.
Okay.
Like $80, and it had been there for 3 years, and he discounted it to $39, and he gave it to me for that. The manager did, because we had a hard time finding it. And I had to blow the dust off of it. So either that, and another place to go is like a thrift store.
Gotcha.
Don't you know? I went to a thrift store like a week later, and bam, there was one for $15.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The third question, I can't remember what it was. If it comes back, I'll pop back in.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
Right on, man. You be blessed, man. Thanks for calling.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Tim, Marshall Benson, Las Vegas. How are you, sir?
I'm good, buddy. Nice to hear from you, man.
Good. Yeah, I'm really excited about this process. My question is for Randy, if she's still on. Randy, good to hear your voice again. For Perla Hernandez, we did the promissory note. My question is, we just got a response back from the IRS saying that it was irrelevant filing or something like that. Did we? I just wanted to find out if you had submitted the 1099A, if that was just a photocopy, or if you had actually got that from the IRS, in triplicate form. I yield.
Yeah,
I don't handle any of the paperwork, so I'm not sure. You or she will need to reach out to me. And for you, I think Chris gave you a reason why I was laying low and talking to you.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay. Making sure he got the word back to you.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Okay.
Yeah, Pearl has called a couple times. If you can get together with her, that would be great. And it's easily corrected. If it was submitted incorrectly, Tim can actually help me submit a letter with the actual 1099A sent to me. It's a triplicate form. It's like a carbon copy, and they're saying that should resolve the problem.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about those, so because I don't handle any of the paperwork at all. So we'll have to talk to the CPA to see if they even did that. I don't even know.
Okay. I'll have Perla call you again.
Okay. Sounds good.
Perfect. And Tim, one more question, please.
Yes, sir.
With my utility bills, my insurance, my car payment, everything is in the name of my trust. And the way I set up my trust at my banking account, I didn't even have to use a social. So there's nothing tied to my Treasury Direct account, my social, anything whatsoever. I'm thinking I should probably put everything back in my actual name. What do you think about that? I yield.
You can get an EIN number for your trust, and I think somehow, and you would need to double check this, but
I've got an EIN number.
I think somehow set up the EIN number for your trust, so that you have your living trust. It should tie in with your social, or you can set, if you have a UCC filing, you can create a bond by using your filing number and use that to discharge everything through your trust if you want to as well. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I mean, there just really is. So you could do that, and then they'll send you a 1099. I forget what it is. There's a particular, it's an NT, that's what it is. It's a 1099 NT, and it's for income going in and out of your account. And so you already have the right account. Are you restricted by any bills of exchange, or can you use all bills of exchange on that account?
Not. It's an EIN number that I set up with the account. Nothing is tied to my social. Nothing is tied to my birth certificate. I didn't even use a driver's license to get the account. So there's absolutely nothing tied to this trust, and I've got everything in the name of the trust. And I have now I need to do my UCC1 filing. I have not done that. I'm going to do that next.
Right away.
Yes, sir. I'll do that.
Yeah, you need to do that before you do any filings, because the IRS already sees us as sovereign. Okay, so what happens is once like I said before, when you set up a public notice like that, then you've separated yourself. But while there is no public notice and then you try to do this, they still think you're a taxpayer. They think you're still under contract. Even though you're trying to bust out, they don't recognize that. And, the IRS just doesn't do anything unless all the forms are in place. But if the forms are in place, do anything you want. So that's the real trick on this whole thing, But like I said, I think that, a humble heart and, keeping your intentions pure, I think you'll do really well. I think you're in the right direction. You're definitely playing in the right front yard, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
Thank you, Tim. Also, Randy, we're also using a court of record. That's another process that Michael Hamilton has perfected. I have stopped 2 evictions where the judge has ordered both of my customers or both of my people out of their house. We submitted documents, temporary restraining orders from the court of record, and we have stopped 2 evictions and reversed 1 sale. I yield.
Wow, congrats
That's
on
what's
that.
up, man. Good for you, brother. Yeah.
Okay. I found my other
Hear your
question. I found my other question, which actually I want to piggyback on what he just said. We have a trust set up as well, and a lot of our stuff is in our trust name. Okay. We have a 98 number. Does that make a difference?
How is your 98 number cataloged? Is it cataloged with your social?
No, it's foreign. That's yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
foreign.
That's a good question.
With a 98, you don't have to. Well, at least the way that we were taught to do the 98s, you don't have to give a social security number because it's foreign jurisdiction.
Well, it's actually optional. Some people do and some people don't. It just depends on how you're using your transmitting utility. And that's what it boils down to. And that's why this stuff is so hard to teach, because everybody, you know, some people want to fly a boat, some people want to fly a plane. And it just depends on what you want to do is how you set these things up. And that's why there are so many paths running through this front yard right now. That so for those of you that are overwhelmed, like, oh my God, how deep does this go? It goes really deep. It'll go as deep as you want it to go.
Okay.
But
so,
you just have to be careful.
Okay, so if there is something that is tied in, okay, if go to our ministry's account, though it has employee ID, if my social security numbers are tied to that EIN, then I could do it.
If you have what you should have is you should have a UCC filed, because
I'm working
you're
on that
conducting
now.
commerce. Yeah,
I found
do that,
I'm
and
kind
then
of a little bit.
take your trust and put that in your property.
Right.
Put your trust in your property, and then that will tie it with your social, and then you can just rock and roll all over the place. You're right there.
Okay. All right. Second question. Real easy one. I know you keep talking about a letter for utility companies for the CFO. Is there any way we can get a copy of that, or somewhere where it's posted?
Yes.
I didn't see it on the tools.
I will get with JW tonight, and I will get it on. I will do my best to bribe, to do whatever I have to do to get JW to put that on my page, or on the Tim's Tools page tonight. And
Okay.
if not, we'll get it on definitely by the morning, I promise.
Okay. Last question.
Or I'll have Dixie with them.
VA confiscating my disability check. How would I go about doing a 1099 for that? And my wife's retirement, I kind of talked to you about that earlier today. And I was listening to the 1026 call, and but I'm trying to figure out if the IRS has the money, who would I still make the Secretary of Treasury the fiduciary?
Yes.
And with
Yes.
okay.
And you need to
with
get a
the VA,
remittance. You need to get a remittance from them for the entire amount, and you need to send them a 1099. I'm sorry.
I have one from the original
Okay,
remit.
perfect. So what you want to do is you want to deposit. You want to turn that guy into a money order, and you want to deposit it. Look at the page there, and you'll see I have an A for B stamp. You want to do something like that on the back of that guy, like a check, and sign it.
Okay. Okay.
And then deposit that with a 1040-V, and then you need to do a 1099 OID for all the payments that have been made off of that.
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
So
Right.
that way you're assessing the taxes forwards and backwards, and you have, here's the judgment that says they're doing it, and here's all the payment. So you're giving them a whole package and saying, here you go, and here's my Form 56, and all of that nonsense will stop.
Okay. Now, with the VA, since that's a government entity, what I did is I had sent a birth certificate endorsed to the IRS commissioner, okay, but I didn't send the Form 56 for discharge of that VA debt. So, what I just
tell them to send you a remittance.
Just do the remittance.
So
okay.
it didn't work? Yeah, just you need a remittance because you've got to put something back in the Treasury account. If that way, see, this is where people get into trouble, and I want all of you guys to really listen to me when I say this. This is when people get into trouble, and because they go out and they decide they're going to go get a yacht, but they never deposit the contracts back into the Treasury. Now they've done a fictitious filing, and it's fictitious because there's no security to look at that says this is what you did with the right hand and this is what you did with the left hand, and everything makes sense. What you have is you have a right hand that has nothing in it, and you have a left hand that has a boat in it, and all this money that went somewhere, and nothing's going back to zero. So it's important that you have
the account's not being zero. Okay. Now, with my wife's retirement, the IRS actually has the money. So how would I do that? I would have to get the IRS to give me a remittance, or how would I go about that? Because the state...
You need to get an account for all of your payments that you've made.
Well, this was a withdrawal from retirement, and the state of Virginia just took the money out and sent it for withholding to IRS.
Okay. Oh, well, that's what they said, right? They said they sent it to the IRS. We'll send them a 1099-A for your acquisition for abandoned property, and I bet you might have a different story.
So send it to the state of Virginia?
Yeah, you need to send them a 1099-A for your acquisition for abandoned property, because what they're doing is they're probably somehow getting an FRN out of you somehow. Like they take it, and then they receive it, and then they monetize it, and then they move it on, and then they pay it, if they pay it to the IRS, which most likely they don't. I'm going to tell you that, like say for example, child support. Let me tell you how that works. You get child support, and somebody hits you get an order that says, all right, Mr. Smith is going to pay $1,200 a month for child support and live in a paper box or whatever. So, and then they say, okay, fine. So they take that, and they take that to the Attorney General's office, and then the Attorney General creates a bid bond and a performance bond that was done in the courtroom, and then everybody gets paid except for the guy that has to pay the child support, even though the child support's already been paid. So then when he starts making payments, then they take another amount and they hit the bond again. And then they see, and then it's more or less, okay, but he's going to pay it back. And then what they're supposed to be doing is taking your money, and they're supposed to be paying it back. But in most cases, because nobody's there to do anything, and they only exist on paper, and you're not hauling this paperwork to jail, they just thumb their nose at the IRS, and they just take it. That's what they do. So they typically just take it, and they don't put it back. So when you start sending the IRS after them about this, all their books go crazy, and they get pretty excited. So we have to understand that there's always a fiction at play. They run the stop sign. It's just an excuse to shake you down. That's all it is, or whatever you did, unless you hurt somebody or damage their property. Anyway.
Gotcha.
But get your UCC file, buddy, and you'll be able to go real far with what you're done. You've done a lot of work, so it looks good.
Thank you.
All right, point of order. This is Brian stepping in. Gosh, there's so much great info being brought forward and everything, and that's originally what this call was intended for, and I appreciate Tim's time for this, and actually I appreciate his wife releasing a little bit of his time for us to bring this information forward as well. And like I was saying, this call was intended, to help people learn how to get things done, because there's so little of this online and available for people. And the call was started by myself, by Judge D.W., and by a lady by the name of Audra, who is a very, very great woman and going through some things right now. I had a great conversation with her today, and she mentioned a call that she had been given by some people in one of her little groups, but she didn't recall the gentleman's name. And somehow or another, when I brought up the name Tim Damron, she's like, oh my gosh, that was him. So anyway, we've got her standing in queue right now, and she had a couple questions for Tim as well. So I think it is only right, since she was one of the people that helped get everything up and rolling for this call, for her to step in if she had something to ask. Are you there, Audra? You may have to hit star, Audra, to unmute. Okay, I know you're there, but not hearing you. Somebody else wants to step in? From... There you are. How you doing, Audra?
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Hoping to be doing a little bit better. Tim, it's great to hear your voice. I'm just hearing about you today. So I've started down this path. I am caught up in family court and trying to get this case closed and getting full restoration of property. How would you suggest? There are many, many, many of us out there who are caught up in this billion-dollar industry. Good mothers and fathers who have had their flesh removed from them. How do we shut them down?
Man, I'm going to tell you, that's a pretty sensitive spot for me. You know,
it's more than just the child.
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
You need to assess the taxes. You're not going to win going to court. Those people are there.
Oh, I know that.
Slaughter our children and take our time, take our money, take our everything. So, you have is it a child custody case or a neglect case, or if you want to, it's a what?
It's a child custody case, and this was just a matter of not having any standing. When this started, divorced 12 years ago, struggling for 10 years. And then when their father remarried, he decided that the children should be with him entirely, started filing ex partes with, ridiculous nonsense, and to my shock, advanced on them, and to the point that I am down to no time at all, was assessed child support, which I have not paid since last February. But I've lost all contact with my children.
And I know how that feels, and that's parental alienation is a form of child abuse.
Yes, it is.
I'm learning about that. I have 3 beautiful children out there, and God has been so gracious that I've been able to talk to 2 of them, and so far. And all of this has happened since I started this walk, by the way. This has all happened in a year. And it's been an amazing journey. And I know that things look really, really real for you, okay? I know that, these documents, they seem to have, but they really don't have any power. What they have is they have a goal, and they have a goal to create commerce. And what you need to do in your case, and I don't know where you are with your filings, but I do recommend that you file a UCC first.
Okay.
And I recommend that you have your children's birth certificate.
I do. Authenticated.
Okay.
Yep.
They're authenticated, so you're the holder in due course of not their birth certificates, their live birth forms, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you need to file a UCC, and you need to put them in a UCC, and then I would send a letter to the court and give them notice of your UCC filing. I would also, and then I would assess all of the taxes. I would send them their 1099-As, and to pay taxes on that stuff. And I'm going to tell you what, they probably won't. And this, I just want you to know, I know this is a big thing for you, and I can feel your frustration, and I can feel your energy, and I can feel your sense of defeat. But you're not defeated. You you've got a lot on your side, and the most important thing that you have is that you are a living person. You can see what's going on, and you see the foolishness, and you see the props, you know. And if you can see the truth in what's going on in this case, ask God for some clarity, and He will. That will reap you business, but you're just not going to win while you're playing their game, because that's their game.
Yeah.
So we got to take it out of the courtroom. And if somebody does something inappropriate, if somebody's exercising outside of their fiduciary duties, or i.e. the judge, and anything like that, you know, you can have some real serious recourse after having these filings done and knowing how to file the proper paperwork with the IRS. So, you know, you have a lot on your side, and I wish that when I was going through this, I wish somebody was telling me about this, because, you know, I personally went 14 years and didn't see my children.
Oh.
I didn't even know who they were. They're adults now, pretty much. And, you know, I have a daughter that's absolutely beautiful. And both of these, you know, all these mothers did this. I mean, they all did it to me, and for no reason. You know, I'm not a bad guy. Never was. Probably wasn't the best husband all the time, but I mean, who is? You know, you know? But, you know, nothing outside the norm. But, you know, my heart is really with you, and I feel what you're going through, and I'm sorry. I really am sorry that our system is so pathetic that it has to drag you through this kind of nonsense just for the sake of getting some stupid money. And that's the real truth, nuts and bolts of that case, really.
Yeah. Well, I have changed my status, and I've been working towards this for some time, but I just haven't learned this part of it, and I want to learn it so that I can help other mothers and fathers out and get their flesh back. This is child abuse. It's the slow death of a child, really. That any parent trying to do this to their own children shouldn't have them.
So if your children, I want you to understand that if your children are if you have their birth certificates, you have their bonds, I mean their certificates of live birth, and they're certified, and you have them, and you're the holder in due course, all you need right now is a public forum to post them in, and that's why I'm telling you the UCC would be the way to go. The IRS recognizes it as such, and it also separates you. It gives public notice and separates you and the straw man. So that way you really benefit, and then this is no more than a tax transaction that you're going to go in and settle real fast without all these tears and pain and people trying to hurt you. You see?
So I can just list their certificate bond numbers on the UCC one and file it with our Secretary of State.
And they're yours. Once you have a UCC file, they're yours in the eyes of the IRS, and as far as how the taxes will be assessed. Okay? I'm going to tell you, I have been in courts where they recognize my filings, like my trademark and copyright, because that's usually the first thing I go after is that, hey, you know, you can't sue me because I have a trademark and copyright on my name and you're using it illegally. I usually go right there, and that's effective about 40 to 50% of the time. With the IRS, it's 100% effective, and that stops everything, and that's going to make these jokers down there act right.
Okay, I have DBA'd and service marked my name, and I also have the DBA on both of my boys' names.
Perfect. Just all they need to be in is on a public form. You need to put them in your property. You need to put them in your UCC3, which would be your property.
Okay.
And make sure you have them listed. And you know, if you want to take a look at my filings, just look up my name, search it, the Secretary of State in New Mexico, and take a look at my filings. And I have what is called a list, and I encourage you to really read that and see what that thing really covers. It's an extremely powerful document, and it will put you in the best possible place you can be in concerning your filings with the IRS. So after these are filed, you need to assess all these taxes, and when they're done, you're going to do just fine, and they're going to find out that they are very outmatched at that point. Paul.
Okay.
That's important.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and I wish you the best of luck. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you. And I yield.
Okay, did anybody else have anything? We're getting on, what, 8 o'clock, getting close to that, 10 till. So it's been a couple hours here. I appreciate Tim's time, and I know his wife covets his time as well. If anybody else had anything to ask, I guess we can take room for one more man or woman, if that's all right with Tim.
Sure.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
how are you doing?
Hey, how you doing? I just had a quick question for the gentleman that was speaking, and a few calls back, he was saying that he was using the back of his Social Security number to offset some of the previous bills, and some interesting things have happened. Kind of curious of, what kind of interesting things, if you wanted to share.
After I talk to him, how's that? Sorry, buddy, you walked right into that one, pal. I'm just kidding. I can tell you that it's basically a QSIP number and an account number. In the letter on the front or the beginning of that number is going to identify what bank it is coming from. So, so when you have something like that, and you understand how things work in the land of Oz and all this fiction, you can maneuver and you can do some things, and I don't know if that's necessarily a strength everybody should have. It's dangerous, and I've seen some things go bad and I've seen things go good. So, I use it on my A for B stamp, but and I guess that's been working pretty good for me. But I'm interested. I'm going to talk to this guy and I'll find out. I'll let you guys know. I'll snitch him out for sure. I'll tell all the secrets. Just kidding. But maybe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, man.
You got it, bud.
If I may, hello?
Yes.
Hi, Tim.
How you doing? I can.
Yeah, I was the sick guy with the cold and the flu on the October 26th call. I'm the one who recommend the going through the public risk management. This is Lamont. How you doing?
Yeah. Oh, hey, what up, man? You sound better, bro.
How you doing? Yeah. I was
I'm
kind of
good, man.
Yeah, I was under the weather, but I'm good now. Yeah, I'm the one who had give you the recommendations for risk management in a public entity and a state equivalent. That can be used on all these cases, even the child support cases and the custody cases or the presumed kidnapping of a child, where you can make a simple business letter format. And I'm sorry, I can talk. I need to talk without any type of friction or any type of static because it's extremely a lot of feedback. If someone can please refrain from the feedback. Thank you. So this is my recommendation for the custody issue in the family court, that there's something called risk management, or actually public entity risk management on the local level, and then on the state level, there's a government claims or state claims review board. These two entities are the governing body. Okay, yeah, I just can't deal with the scratching because there's a lot of feedback on my end. But these entities are the governing bodies for these officials, these corrupt, oath-taking officials on the the liability and insurance level. So if you write a business letter format to both of them, you have to seek out and search them out for each state. They may have the different names, but they're the ones that do all the assessing of their what they call them, their union dues or their union associations, which they are accountable to these entities. And once again, just write a business letter format of your complaint, and of course, they will send you a response where they would throw them under the bus, similar to your situation where you actually pointed out to the letter that the Judicial Review Board totally threw the administrative magistrate under the bus, where you actually presented the letter to that so-called judge, and it was discovered that he was just an administrator. The same thing will happen with these letters and these correspondence if you do your due diligence and you send them by first-class mail. But a friend of mine who investigated this, who did the forensic analysis of this, who did the forensic correspondence, he got a letter. He got both letters back where they threw the highway patrolman under the bus. And then he was able to sue the highway patrolman who stopped him for a seatbelt infraction, just to do pirating, sue him in his private capacity, in his personal capacity, because he wasn't affiliated with the association properly under MANTA, M-A-N-T-A, all that stuff. So that's one effective way where it's outside of the court system, and you're always recommending stay out of the court system. This is very effective because they lose their holding in the insurance. The insurance companies drops them like a hot potato. The next thing is the what you mentioned about the filing of the bond. My question is, how in my state, I'm in New Jersey and New York, how do you find out the bond for these public officials and these lawyers? How do you seek that information out?
Usually, it's usually filed. It depends on what kind of town you live in or city, but generally speaking, the county clerk will tell you where it's filed, and in most cases, it is filed in the county clerk's office. And then at that point, you just need to ask for the surety company.
Oh, the surety company, right. Right now, that's the tricky thing. In New Jersey and New York, they keep that stuff on the county level. They keep it quiet. So they keep it. They refuse to give that information out. The comptroller, the state comptroller, or the comptroller of, which is C-O-M-T-R-O-L-L-E-R, comptroller, is usually what's running the bonds or the insurance for these oath-taking municipal and state officials and clerks and judges. But you can't get anything out of them. What do you propose as another strategy getting that information?
Freedom of Information Act, and then if they don't give it to you, then I would file a 3949A on them and stick the IRS on them for that nonsense. Because you're trying to do something and they're keeping you from doing it, and that means that there's fraud. That means that they're trying to conceal something, like maybe he doesn't have a bond. And so those are the things you would bring up and ask to be investigated by the IRS.
I see.
It can take 15 to 21 days. It goes pretty quick.
Right. Now, that sounds very good. The approach that I'm doing now, well, let me just give you a background story. I have a case now, what I briefly touched on in my October 26th conversation with you, I believe, or November 2nd. I have the same administrative judge. He calls himself a judge, but we know they're not. He signed an order of contempt against the opposing parties, the contractor and the attorney as well, who were originally the plaintiff. Now I reversed the polarity where I'm declaring myself the plaintiff and they're the defendant, and they're the ones who have injured me. I'm the injured party. However, within 2 weeks, I'm going back to the hearing trial really for I'm challenging the process service in jurisdiction. However, the administrative judge sent a letter out stating that my writ of summary judgment was dismissed, even though the contempt of court against them still stands. How do I proceed with that?
So you need to assess. You need to assess the taxes on. And this is, and you know what? This is and I'm really glad you're having. I mean, I'm sorry you're having this problem, but this is a good example. You are a gentleman that certainly has the ability and is certainly very intelligent, and you have an ability to defend yourself in the Shark Tank. You know how to swim in the Shark Tank. But understand, because you're swimming in the Shark Tank, you're still a goldfish, okay? And you're in their world. You know, yeah, you're there. You are. It's a perfect example. You're kind of at a stalemate with your situation, legally speaking. You know, and then there's no reasonable way out. And this is what happens. They just start making up shit, and that's what they do. They'll say, you know, and they'll just lie. I would strongly recommend that you assess your taxes on this deal, because with all of this confliction within your case, the only entity or the only people I know that are going to save your bacon on that deal is going to be the IRS, because in doing that, if you report it.
Right.
So if you need to get the 1099As out, and you need to get a 1099 OID out to both the parties, and a Form 56 to the judge, and a Form 56 with all of your red copies, going to the IRS with the letter, and that's going to get you in a better spot.
What's this? Can you classify? I'm sorry. Can you clarify the red letter portion with the letter going back to the IRS?
Anything that's any of your forms that are red. When you order your forms, they're going to be in carbons, and so after you fill them out, the judge is going to get a carbon, and you're going to get a carbon. But the IRS gets the red copy on top. They get that copy because that's considered currency, and that's what they get, and that's how they process it. So, and I guess it pays the dues for processing it somehow. I don't know. I don't understand how that works entirely. But anyway, that's you need to follow that process and get out of the Shark Tank.
I got you,
there, brother. And I can tell, man, you're good, brother. You know your stuff.
Well, I appreciate it. I walk in there just to give you a situation. I walk in there and I say to the bailiff. And I recommend this for everybody: the clerk of the court, or the court officer, or any bozo who's operating with a badge and a gun there to intimidate you and call your name when you come into be a part of their corporate fiction, be bonded to their docket number, be bonded to the index number, and that's how they do their cycle of tapping into your trust, even on a local level to the federal, to the state level. Check this out. I just do. I step in. I confirm like once or twice that they are calling my name, and I verbally state to the judge or the clerk of the court or the bailiff, I'm just confirming you calling my name just before I enter before I go across the bench, and before I proceed across the bench. And I usually have like 2 or 3 witnesses with me who are collateral evidence into collateral support anyway. And I really do this. I take my left foot first. Before I approach the bench, before I cross that bench, and I said to the judge, good day, how are you? I'm just to inform you that I reserve all my rights, and I wish this wasn't so, and I am not the corporate fiction to any bond that may be circulating in the courtroom. I'm not the corporate fiction, and I do reserve all my rights, and I waive all the benefits, and I can't be held in contempt of court for that. Now we may proceed, and now I may tell you my name, I'll tell you my domicile, and we can proceed with this case and this matter. And that from there, that shuts everything down. People get quiet. I get 2 or 3 bailiffs They want to roam around like bees to honey, but they usually scatter away, and then I proceed with the case.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, in this particular matter, the opposing side want to settle on a very low amount, and I sent you an instant message where maybe this can be something where it can be built up to a court of equity or a higher venue, perhaps federal court, because of the damages and all the harm that's done to me. But that's how I proceed usually with these matters, and I just verbally, with confidence, because I know there's, like you said, there's dark magic going on, there's dark forces going on in there all the time, and I feel sorry for those who are working with that system who don't know this stuff. But that's how I proceed. But yeah, you're right. I think I am definitely going to go that route. The one thing about the 1099, the 3949, should that be accompanied with the 1099A and an OID and the Form 56?
If it applies, yeah. I mean, and if it applies, I mean, if you go in there and, like, say for example, you send them your 1099A, somebody decides to send them back to you, or the court sends them back to you in dishonor. Send them a 3949A with their letter. I did that to a judge, and I did, and because she's absolutely out of line. She can't deny my process. She's a public servant.
So,
and
so
they sent me.
I'm sorry.
I can't do a part-time. What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, they sent me a letter saying that they don't accept apartheid communication. I mean, this case is done and over with. So, and they're saying that if I want to speak to the judge, that I need to go make file some paperwork for Her Highness because she's so important. No, screw that. I filed a 3949A, and she hasn't sent my OIDs back.
That's great. That's great. In this situation, I got the opposing client, the opposing petitioner, shifted to the defendant's side because they are in contempt of court. Yes, they have been in contempt of court for over 30 days, and it has not been rebutted or even dismissed. And yes, check this out: the attorney the primary attorney on the other side had to recuse himself very quietly, very secretively, because he had violated, and he didn't rebut his false instruments and his perjury that I verbally and black ink on white paper addressed in my paperwork prior to me entering the court. So now I'm dealing with his flunky, who's now writing motions to. He's writing various motions and sending to me by first-class mail, not proper service, violating judicial law, which there is judicial law for proper service and proper process serving, with the 3 attempts nonsense, and then sending by certified mail. And they're treating me like I'm a bar member attorney who's going to have a gentleman's agreement to accept first-class mail of their motions, even though they are fraudulent. But the situation is this now, that the flunky attorney who's now the substitute attorney is putting in motions, and do I have to answer those motions, or just say that I'm going to vacate, not vacate, I'm going to deny or dismiss his motions because they were sent by first-class mail?
What I would do is I would do a submit to file, and I would, for the record, and I would basically give notice to the court of the service that you've received, and then also any law that might, defame that service, as you're saying, which is not proper service. And then you just want to submit that. You want to do a submission to file, and then you probably want to set a hearing for it, for those matters to be heard, and and file a summary judgment.
How you call that?
For lack of service, for improper service.
It's called an in-file hearing? I'm sorry, in-file?
No. I would file a summary judgment and a notice of hearing and a request for hearing. And in my summary judgment, I basically would say that what basically has happened, the improper service, and that's grounds for dismissal of claim. Also bring in any other arguments like jurisdiction, as long as they haven't been ruled on. You can bring up anything else and just load that sucker up, man, and then send it to him as a sworn truth affidavit. Send your motion in the format of a sworn truth affidavit, and I'm going to tell everybody that's listening, if you want to play this game and you want to get in there and you want to file this stuff, file sworn affidavits. File all of your responses as sworn. And then that way, if you start firing back like what I'm telling you to do, then you're in a position to really do some damage, because now I'm going to tell you, the courts don't typically recognize it. They're just going to lie. They don't care. But the IRS sure does. And
gotcha.
if you can show fraud of any kind, the IRS does not give a flip. They will set it off. It'll be Sodom and Gomorrah in their lives. So that's what you got to do.
Right now, I have three.
Right.
Thank you, man. I got 3 or 4 different laws they violated on the state and city level, and also the due process and equal protection on the federal level that they committed as fraud, basically, or the opposing side. But my notice of writ for summary judgment, my affidavit of fact for summary judgment, and my writ for summary judgment in the form of a affidavit of fact, those 3 instruments, this fake Elohim judge wrote a letter in decision and order dismissing it before trial and hearing is placed. So that was the nuts and bolts and chock full of nuts of all the fraudulent things I mentioned prior to my order show cause and the contempt of court against them. Now I want to bring those 3 instruments back into the court, or somehow in the arena or the venue where it's recognized and not dismissed. And I think he might have done it with this linchpin of this summary judgment notice of hearing request.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's the procedure I would follow if I was dealing with that case here. I would go that route, that's the route I would definitely go. But I mean, you really ought to assess the taxes, because with all this nonsense going on, when you start sending your A's out, okay, the IRS is going to be contacting that court in about 10 to 15 days, okay, and that's like for real. And that's when shit starts hitting the fan and people start freaking out and they start recognizing you and they know who you are, like everybody. That's when you know you did something right. And,
okay.
I mean, it's true. It really is. And so with all this grounds for a 3949A, all that in your 3949A?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off if you wanted to explain or expound any more. I have one more question.
Well, if you want to, you need to put all that in a 3949A, and you need to send it to the IRS and cry on their shoulder about it, because they're going to listen to you and they're going to take action, because that's what the form says they have to do. That's how they roll. But anyway, what was your other question?
What's the verbal language when I address the IRS to assess the taxes on this particular index number, docket number in this case? Or what language do I use verbally if I'm assessing taxes in general? Is it 2 separate things? The verbal language to request the assessing of the taxes for this instant matter, this court case?
No, you're not going to request it. You're just going to do it.
Okay.
You request it. It's your right, and you have to. And you know what? And if the judge starts going, well, sir, can you please explain? You want to tell him, hey, judge, this is a whole lot of money you guys are trying to traffic through here, and it's being done on my bond, and I have a responsibility that I have to assess the taxes on this. Okay, this is a lot of money. You can't. This isn't 25 cents. Go send your kid down to the bubblegum store. We have to tell this to the IRS. You're right. They won't haul you guys to jail, but they'll haul my ass to jail, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you guys have a problem with that? And things are going to get real quiet. And, speak like a king and walk like a king. Know what you are. Know what you can do. And know who your Heavenly Father is. And you stand on that authority. And when you speak to these people, they're not going to look at you like the dog just got up and got a beer out of the fridge. They won't look at you like that anymore. It'll be different, okay?
I hear you. Thank you.
Real authority.
Tim, the letter that you mentioned that is attached, or the letter that you said that will go with the 1099A and the OID. What letter are you talking about? What's that composed of? What is it?
I usually, in the 1026 show, I talk about it. You kind of want to send a letter to the IRS, and you want to let them know that, you know, if they feel like that you're doing a frivolous filing of any kind, please send it back to you within 10 days so that you may correct it. Or because I have filled out a Form 56, you know, my fiduciary is also obligated to take care of that duty as well on my behalf, and I'm giving consent for him to do so, you know, blah, 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 blah. And basically you just want to remove yourself from some liability. And then, you know, and the easy way to do it is just say, you know, like you're going to church.
Gotcha.
But don't say I'm a sinner. Just say that I'm a tax fugitive. So
gotcha.
just replace God with IRS, tax and you know, and then the other stuff, you know, just change that stuff around and you're going to be just fine. But that's basically what it is. And in that letter, you need to have an honest heart to say, look, man, I just want to assess my taxes and I'm going to do this properly, and this is what I'm trying to do. So, I mean, you know, if you think I'm being cuckoo or something like that, just send me a thing and tell me and I'll fix it. You know, go ahead.
Do I list the administrative venue? Do I list the court and the judge in the letter, and also the 1099A and the OID?
No. Well, you're going to list them on your 1099 OIDs, yes, obviously. Go to my website.
And the 56. Yeah, I'll go to your website.
And the 56.
I'll see the forms.
Go to the website. Look at how the forms are filled out. You'll see an example of how to do it in a court setting. You'll see Larry Lawyer and the judge. Just look at those documents, and that's pretty much how you fill them out. Don't forget to fill out the 1096. It's also attached in there. And do not forget to appoint your fiduciary with the judge, and then another fiduciary with the Secretary of Treasury. Okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then, by the way, your trademark name, you file that under DC Trademark Names and Copyright Office? When you trade
No, I filed it. I did an affidavit, and I filed it with the Secretary of State.
Okay, I see. Okay, cool. All right, thank you for that.
So,
thank you.
Just understand that I use the UCC for what I needed to do, and what I needed to do is to have a good, solid public forum for public notice. I'm not interested in doing commerce under the UCC. Does that make sense? That's using it properly, and not to be confused. You know.
Well, yeah, you're not tapping or trying to take advantage of your direct treasury account or your priority. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you try and just make sure that you establish yourself that you are separate from the straw man fiction, corporate fiction, by doing that and giving a notice to the Secretary of State. I hear that. I hear you.
Yeah, and then it just rocks after that, dude. Yeah, that's why I don't have problems traveling, anything like that. I don't have no problems with that. I mean, even interstate traveling, and no problems.
Yeah, I'm glad I talked to you about that, because I did trademarks and filed it with DC and Trademarks and Copyrights when I do my logos and designs and people's intellectual property, and I usually file it. And I was thinking, man, it's like over $200, $300 just to file for one different attempt. So I was wondering, it couldn't be through the DC office. So I'm glad you clarified that out. And the fiduciary issue is with the fiduciary. You assign the fiduciary with the judge and with the Secretary of State.
Correct. It's Secretary of Treasury.
Secretary of Treasury. Cool.
You want to do that, or with what?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not saying anything. I'm listening to you.
Oh, yeah. You want to make sure that you file it with the Secretary of Treasury. Not necessarily his name, but the Secretary of Treasury, which means you're invoking the office. In other words, you want everybody in the office.
Right, the state level or the federal level?
Well, no, with the IRS level.
Oh, the Secretary of State with Secretary of Treasury for the IRS. Okay.
Okay. You want to make sure that they're involved and that they're overseeing and that they're filling out any forms that you may not have filled out, and they take care of all that nonsense for you. But you have to send them the proper motivation to do it, which usually takes a form or a letter. So these are things that they just have to go because they have no heart. Remember, they're just a tin man. They're just a vessel. And they're only going to be a vessel, nothing else.
That's a very good analogy, and I definitely wholeheartedly echo the previous caller who's complimented you on your quick learning curve, because I've been doing this for a few years, 10 years and 15 years of awareness, but 5 or 6 years of educating myself on source documents and traveling the nation and learning this stuff. And I commend you for not only your learning curve, but you're able to extrapolate and explain quickly, and you don't have an attitude about it. A lot of people have an attitude about it. They want to profit. They want to profit from this. You know, you know, I don't want to name any names, but they charge thousands of dollars for this information, and some are very arrogant. And then that to me is dark magic. That's dark science. That's deceitful, because what you're doing is what the biblical book says. We're actually freeing ourselves from the slave system itself that's been going on for over, like, I don't know, since the Pope's Unum Sanctum, you know, things like that, the Secret Treaty of Verona. But I commend you, and I you know, would like to reach out to you, and I'll send you an instant message right now too.
Thank you, because I actually want to. I've been meaning to actually get with you and talk with you, so I'd like to talk with you about some other things. So please do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we talked about the also with this the Secretary of, I'm sorry, the Department of Transportation, when I got my instrument from them too.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to finish our conversation about. I wanted to talk to you more about that because I've been learning some things about. This is the bad thing when you have people do your paperwork for you, and like I had somebody else do my, you know, my plates and IDs and stuff, and they did my filings for me. And now I'm trying to, because they're not around, now I have to dissect this whole thing and figure out what they did. And I'm figuring it out, but I just need a little bit of help. I probably need to get with you on that and talk to you about it.
I'll send, no problem. I'll send you a message, a private message right now in your FB, Facebook. And I yield right now, and many blessings. Many blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I?
Please.
Yes, I was wanting to know if the gentleman that just was finished speaking, can he be reached? Can I reach him on Facebook? This is D.R. Harris. How you doing, Tim?
Hey, buddy. So nice to hear from you. I'm gonna figure out how to unblock you, dude. I feel, dude, my Facebook page is empty, man. Dude, I feel so bad, bro. I just need somebody. I'm gonna have to get with the Judge JW because these guys are way smarter than I am on computer stuff. I just know how to do. I just know how to pull the trigger. I don't know how to make keys. So.
You're okay.
Hey, D.L. Harris, this is Brian. And you know what? Fortunately, when I saw stuff, I didn't go and jump the gun and go and block you either. So I don't have to worry about going and fixing anything. And, you know, sorry about that mess, brother.
No problem at all. Everyone is doing a great job. Tim always does a great job. And I'm always on here listening and learning at the same time. I was just trying to see the gentleman that was speaking, if I could get his information to reach out to him on Facebook as well, and then I yield.
I got your back, brother. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. He's going to send me an instant message, and I'll figure out how to unblock you tonight. I promise.
All right. Thank you. And I yield.
Yeah, and Tim, you know, if you can't figure out how to do the unblock, I'll talk to you too and see if I can walk you through it. But with that previous caller, I think that's a great segue to move out of here. You know, a big pat on the back is totally deserved for you. We appreciate the info you're bringing forward, and I totally understand what people are talking about when they discuss the attitude and stuff that they get from some people. I'll tell you what, there are some pretty big people in this movement who have said some really crazy ass stuff to me in the past. And in a way, I kind of know why they're doing it, because you get hit left and right. I mean, when I'm walking out the door to go to work, I'm getting messaged with brand new stuff like crazy, and people asking the same questions over and over and over. And it's actually more of a matter of frustration than anger that these people are coming from. And we just have to realize that, you know what, when I first started looking for this info, I couldn't find anywhere. I had to dig and dig and dig in order to find any little bits and pieces of stuff. And so now with Justice DW putting out Lawful America Solutions with links there for Tim's information, and with my group as well, Tactical Sovereignty. You can use the search bar on there just like you use Google. Just put in a keyword. You'll be amazed at the info that you find. This stuff is way more available than it even was a couple years ago, and we appreciate people like Tim coming forward and sharing their info with us. I just hope we don't bug him too much, that we turn him into the sourpuss that some of these people have become. And Tim, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Yeah, I'm honored. I tell you what, man, I'm just so grateful at the humility of everybody that's involved in this, JW and Judge Mickey, yourself, callers, especially people like D.L. Harris. You know, it tells me that we're part of something, and we're part of something that's so much bigger. And, you know, God just wants to know who we are, and that's the biggest, and that is the best part about this whole walk. And, you know, as long as I'm able to carry this torch, I'll carry this torch. And until the waters dry up and he tells me to do something different, this is where I'm going to be. So I appreciate you guys, too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I used to say that the only time that I actually knew that I was definitely specifically doing what the Creator intended when I was in the restroom. That was the only time I was definitely doing what I was supposed to do. Well, you know what? All of us have met each other at the door, and you know what? This is the purpose. This is our purpose. You know, I was killed in a car accident a number of years ago, all right, and was not supposed to come back. And when I did come back, my family was told that it would be a minimum of a year before I ever walked again, and a minimum of 2 years before I was ever able to even go to work or anything. And a home was already set up for me in a long-term care facility for people, okay? Well, you know what? I was back walking and back to work in under 3 months because there was a purpose. And there's a purpose for everybody. And a lot of times it takes hardships that direct us down the path we're supposed to go on. That happened with Tim. That obviously happened with me. And it happens with all of us. What we have to do is yield the fruits that come from those hardships. And that's what we're here to try and bring forward to everybody. And I hope everybody had a great night. And once again, thank you, Tim.
Thank you, brother.
All right, Justice DW, if you want to sign us out, hopefully you're still right here. And if he doesn't jump right here, then maybe everybody can just chit-chat with each other until he does. That's always a good thing, too. A lot of times people hear little bits and pieces that other people don't.
If I may, this is D.
How you doing?
Hey, Judge DW will be here in a second. He lost audio on his end. He'll be here in 1 minute.
Hey, D, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad, you?
Good, good. So you guys got the Good. You got the computer systems up and running, bigger and stronger than ever, and maybe too big.
Yes.
Huh?
Yep. I try to help out a little bit and get them with a nice system to do we can start doing more video streaming. So that'll help with the show. We can get documents over the air quicker and better and during the stream, and we'll record it in high definition, which is really what I wanted in the end of this, so we can actually see everything. So moving on and onto better things, hopefully, and this will at least get us started and get a footprint.
It's working.
Oh, I'm glad you're able to get together with him and help out.
Yeah, I'm actually not too far away. I'm like 2 hours, so I got lucky on that end. I didn't have to like fly anywhere. But yeah, always just glad to help.
You know, I've met some members from Tactical Sovereignty that live down here on Florida, and it's really great when you can shake hands with people, have lunch with them or whatever, and really get to know that we're all on the path together.
Yeah,
and
we're all
all
on
have
the same
the
page.
right heart and mind.
Yep. Oh, I totally agree. Hey, DW, did you make it back?
Yeah, I'm using my wife's account here. You guys hear me? You guys hear me? All right, good.
I think they want to sign out the show.
Yeah, the computer crashed at the last minute. It froze up. Can you believe that?
Yep.
All right. Thanks for everybody for showing up. Sorry about the feeds to YouTube. First, we're having problems with a slow system trying to push the feed. Now we're having problems with a fast system trying to push the speed, so we can't win. But as long as you get the message out there, that's what counts. We try to update these, upload these recordings right after the show is done. So thank God, and it's a blessing that they are being recorded. So you'll definitely be able to watch it from the beginning, middle, and end. So thank you guys for all your patience and time. This is a work in progress, and I'm hoping to God when we get out there, we'll have an even better setup than what we have here in, Hicktown, USA here. With that being said, this is Judge DW with Matrexit Discussion Group on Matrexit Broadcast Media. I hope you guys have a good night. I yield.
Hey, thank you, DW.